All right, I'm just going to do the rest of these example problems. If you feel comfortable with it, try them and then check to make sure your answers match up. If they don't, make sure you watch the video so you understand why. All right, so in this first one, I see that I've got charges of 0, +3. That one's just written for me, so I know it's +3. This is 0. And then I've got, +2. That one's just written there already. So I can track how they're changing. I got to decide, first of all, which one's becoming more positive. Well, I see that zinc, it started at 0, and it became +2. All right, I see that AU started at +3, and it went to 0, which means it's reduced. It's becoming more negative or less positive. Think about your number line. Is it becoming more positive or more negative? All right, so our reduction is AU 3+. AU went from 3+ to 0. And our oxidation was zinc going from 0 to 2+. Next one. CH4 and O2, and we have CO2 and H2O. All right, so I see the CH4. Remember that hydrogen is almost always going to be a +1 charge. Okay, I've got 4 of them, so I'm going to do a little bit of math up here. Okay, so I have X plus 4 times +1 equals 0. Okay, that tells me that X has to equal -4. And I skipped a couple steps in there. If you're not too sure, feel free to ask and we'll walk you through that. But carbon has to be a -4 charge in this case, just doing the algebra. Okay, oxygen, it's all by itself. Even though it's diatomic, it's a neutral element, so it's got a 0 charge. Then we go to carbon dioxide. Well, oxygen is normally going to be a -2 charge. I have 2 of them. 2 times -2 would be -4. Let's see, X -4 equals 0. Therefore, X has to equal +4. Okay, carbon is +4 on this side. I can see that that changed. It went from a negative number to a positive number. Became more positive. It's oxidation. Okay, and then oxygen, I see that it went from a -1, or I'm not a negative number, I'm sorry. It's a 0. It went from a 0 and it became a -2. Okay, so it became more negative. And we could go ahead and do the rest of these oxidation numbers. Hydrogen's going to be +1 still. Oxygen's -2. You could confirm that because 2 times +1 minus 2 equals 0. So that checks out. So the only things that are changing oxidation number are carbon and oxygen. Carbon was oxidized because it went from -4 to +4. And then oxygen was reduced. It went from 0 to -2. NaOH, HCl, NaCl. Okay, let's get started with it. We've got Na with a +1 charge. We've got hydrogen has a +1 charge. Normally oxygen's -2. Let's try it and see if that works. -2. Okay, -2 and 2 positives. That adds up to be 0. So that's correct. That's right. All right, then I have +1 for hydrogen. Chlorine has to be -1 to make that neutral. Hopefully you can kind of start to see those without having to do algebra on all of them, because sometimes they're fairly simple. Na is in group 1, it's +1. Cl is -1. And then oxygen again is -2, and over here hydrogen has to be +1, because if you multiply by 2, that's +2. They balance out to be 0. Now I see that sodium went from +1 to +1. That's not a change. I see that oxygen went from, oxygen went from -2 to -2. That's not a change. Hydrogen is +1 everywhere. Chlorine is -1. Well, this is weird. Okay, I hope that you see that this is nothing is changing. Nothing is being oxidized. Nothing is being reduced. What does that mean? That means this is not a redox reaction. It's not a redox reaction because nothing is oxidized or reduced. So that one was thrown in there just to check and see if you could catch when something is not a redox reaction. That might come back in some sort of test or quiz question. All right, MnO4-. Pay attention to those signs. Start with -2 charge for oxygen. 4 times -2 gives me -8. I'm going to do that math up here. -8. All right, it needs to add up to be, remember to check that -1 sign up right here. All right, and then manganese is my unknown, right? X minus 8 equals -1, so X equals +7. Okay, Fe, it's all by itself. It's got to be 0. H plus, that means +1. Now I have Mn2+, you know what that means. Oxygen, oxide is -2. We have hydrogen ions of +1. That adds up. 2 times 1 is +2, -2. They cancel each other out. Fe is a 2+ charge. So here's our overall reaction. What's changing? Well, manganese changed, and so did iron. Manganese became more negative or less positive. Iron became more positive. So iron went from 0 to +2. Manganese went from +7 to +2, but that's still reduction. Okay, so Mn went from +7 to +2, less positive, which means reduction or more negative. And then oxidized, well, that was Fe. Fe became, it went from 0 to +2. That's oxidation. Oxidation, reduction. And now you've had a look at oxidation reduction reactions and how to tell which is which.